This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Palette, and I own a shiny ponyta. Today we are taking a look at Unsavable, written by James Conrad, or Murzain? Murzain? I believe that's how you say it. This is a story written for the POKEPASTA challenge, and we're going to get right into it. I'm not one to make rambly posts, but I'm at a loss, and I gotta get my thoughts out there somehow. Where do I start? The game? The message? The accident? Whatever. I'll get to all of that. I haven't touched a Game Boy since elementary school, but the Pokemon Go fad sparked my interest enough to revisit some childhood memories. The Game Boy didn't work at first. The problem was obvious. The inside of it was a crime scene of some unfortunate battery who was sitting in a pool of its own acid that long ago solidified into a white crust. Luckily, that's pretty much one of the easiest tech fixes known to man, so it was easy enough to clean up. With a pristine battery and a ratty Pokemon Yellow cartridge locked and loaded into the handheld portal of childhood escapism, I prepared to be the best like no one ever was. A wonderfully familiar jingle played through the speakers. I probably thought some wistful shit like, they don't make them like that anymore. I swear, you touch anything that you used to remember, and you act like you're fucking 70. So that's the first 3 paragraphs, and I wanted to read those together, and you get some beautiful wordplay right there. Some mixed in with some rambliness, and I think that they go well together. This is sort of a weird approach to realist horror. The realism is kind of a noir realism, and you don't see many stories that are written this way. I think I've done a few, but characteristically, it's a very unique thing, and I'm instantly interested in the description of a battery crime scene, and that's very much so like the dead body in The Great Gatsby kind of scene, but a battery instead. That's very successful, but we don't know where we're at so far, so let's press on. Oh, and also on the note of our character, our narrator, they're very much so giving you a large amount of personality in a very short space, which is something that is refreshing. I like that. Originally, my plan was to start a new game and re-experience the authentic Pokemon experience from the beginning. Unfortunately, my previous save state tempted me with the promise of being a precious time capsule that I hadn't realized I buried. At first, that didn't really pan out. I got to look at things like how many Pokemon I caught and what stupid nicknames I had given them. For whatever the reason, my sparkly eyes wandered through the item menu, and I found an item called SOS. Selecting it brought up a message which read, "I'm still here. Beat the Elite Four. You can save me. Kevin." Not Nate. Kevin. Now, you may wonder to yourself, who is Kevin? The name probably doesn't mean much to you, but Kevin was a close friend of mine who got hit by a car during our sophomore year of high school. We had known each other since first grade, and he always knew how to make people laugh. Death never seems to come out of nowhere and takes away the people that you want in your life. Takes away the people that you want out of your life. It always seems arrive with a vindictive spite and remove the people who make the world a better place. You may also think to yourself, just because the name Kevin is there doesn't necessarily mean they're related. After the initial shock of reading that cryptic message, that's the exact thought I used to talk myself down. So our narrator is acknowledging the flaw in their thinking and trying to explain it away as a coincidence, trying to explain, that your skepticism is the skepticism that they use to try and undermine the story. I like that. But the phrase I'm still here, beat the Elite Four, you can save me, Kevin, ties into the title, Unsavable. There is already a nice play of words there, and I really like that. My mind was torn between two different thoughts. On one hand, it says on one hand, this could be a freak coincidence of sorts, and I should dismiss it entirely. On the other hand, if I was to be presented with the opportunity to bring one of my best friends back to life, what kind of fool would I be to turn away? In hindsight, I can now say that it would have made more sense to follow the message while maintaining a healthy amount of skepticism. However, bizarreness and tension of the situation just found a way to completely steal that logical thought from me. I was playing the game within 5 minutes. So there's a missing the in that sentence, but I think that that's been the only, possible grammatical error in this story so far. Everything else has just been, there have been some things that sound better spoken than read. But anyway, I told this story to 2 other people, and when I got this far, I was presented with a lot of questions. These included things like, how far were you into the game? Were there was any other dialogue altered? What happened in Lavender Town? Which Pokemon were you using, and what was your rival's name? Look guys, I hardly remember this game. I don't keep tabs on what people said. I don't remember what place Lavender Town was, and I didn't think of that my Pokemon or rival were what was interesting or relevant here. When I was asked, why didn't you just look up a walkthrough to see what lined up? Evidently, I'm an idiot and I don't know, and I don't need the rest of you to tell me what I already know. Moving on now. The is said twice as a typo. This is, a very pandery shot over the bow to all of my criticisms of Pokemon creepypastas. I like that this person is just like, no, I'm not obsessed with Pokemon, so I don't know about these things. This narrator is different from a lot of other narrators in POKEPASTAs, and I like that. It reminds me of our winner. Oh my god. The one that... Beth's story. He's fast asleep. Where we have a narrator who doesn't actually know about these kinds of things in Pokemon and everything, that's not obsessed with it. Continuing. As I said, my memory of the actual game was fuzzy. Despite all of that, I was incredibly focused on what I was doing. I think that's what people call a trance. It's just like when you're driving by yourself and you know damn well that you were focused on the road, but recounting the details of the trip itself is nearly impossible once you've reached your destination. Before I knew it, 5 hours had passed. My eyes hurt and I needed to take a break, so I started to save the game. Why was the screen blank? I didn't hit the power switch. It was still on the on position. I flicked it up and down a few times. Nothing happened. I took out the cartridge and blew into it. I tried turning it on again. Still nothing. Panic was starting to overtake me as I opened up the battery compartment. The fresh battery was leaking a fresh, bubbly, obscene-looking acid. Son of a bitch. A little later I cleaned up the mess and went back to my quest. At least I tried to. Apparently, turning off the system in the middle of the save corrupts your save data. It was all gone. There was no info on the internet about an SOS item in Pokemon Yellow. I started another playthrough of the game, looking for a sign that something might still been there. Eventually, I got to the end. Beat the Elite Four. There was no divine intervention, no confirmation of the message, and no proof that there may have been any in the first place. I don't know if I'll ever go a day without thinking about what may have happened if the data hadn't been lost, and what else also may forever be unsavable. So I love the ending of this. It reminds me of a game that I really like. I like that there's no romanticism in this. This just ends so sadly, so somberly. There was no way to save your friend in this story. There was no supernatural intervention. There was no, it was just real. And there's no proof that any of this happened because there couldn't be. The evidence was destroyed by the save file being corrupted. The reason that we can't get, the reason that we can't get proof of any of this is right there in the title. That's really good. We need a good reason, and they give us a really good reason in the story. I do wonder, and this really doesn't matter because of how the story is structured, but I do wonder if the save data would be erased by replacing the battery, because I think the battery is attached to the memory inside the cartridge, but that even kind of furthers the story, because let's say that the data gets erased when our narrator replaces the battery, then that means that this is all either a hallucination or some sort of supernatural thing. That just furthers it. It makes it better. It's just something to consider, and it's something I considered the first time I read it. I don't know for fact if that's the case, but I'm fairly certain that is the case, that it would erase your data. But I think that the story was a real strong contender for our contest. I think it was a lot more understated than some of the other stories, and then something that I really admired about it. A lot of the stories did something very unique, and the pure just sadness of the realism to this was really what this one had going for it. I don't know that there's really too much to improve on besides the few typos. I really like this story. Thank you, James Murzain, for contributing to our little community here. Thank you for being an author. Continue doing what you're doing. I hope to see you at the in the Santa Claus challenge. But by the time you see this, you will have either written one or not. Anyway, our sponsor for the day is Casa del Catty. Casa del Catty, authentic Mexican restaurant for cats.